Hi, Georgie. Welcome.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, I'm so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining on the podcast today. Guys, I did want to introduce Georgie Collinson. She's Australia's leading anxiety therapist. She's an author of two books, The Reset Method, Master Your Relationship Anxiety. Specializing in high functioning anxiety, she blends
Naturopathy.
naturopathy. I haven't, we'll touch on that today. Clinical hypnotherapy and mindset coaching to provide a holistic, results-driven approach to overcoming anxiety. She has a top chart anxiety reset podcast that helped thousands of women worldwide break free from overthinking, self-doubt, and emotional overwhelm. She's grown an audience on Instagram. Georgie is a trusted voice in mental well-being, empowering high achievers to cultivate inner calm and confidence. I'm so excited to speak to you today. This is going to be an awesome episode, and for anyone tuning in.
Oh, thanks, Riley. It's so good to be here.
Yes. And guys, I feel this episode is really quite personal to me and just like discussing the topic of anxiety and like I'm sure we'll go through other pieces because I did have anxiety for probably 10 years and it's been something I've navigated through a lot of my life, as Georgie will share her story as well. And that was a tipping point to actually for me becoming psychic. And I do feel when we are not trusting our gut, we are in fear and we are going down the wrong path. So I feel this piece of some of the strategies Georgie's going to share today, and if you're tapping into some of the other pieces around channeling and just connecting to your physical vessel when we learn to channel is such a huge thing, and the mind and mental health is such a big part of that. Like we are in a physical vessel, and we do need to be in our body. And yeah, so welcome, Georgie. Thank you for joining.
Yay.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe your like what led you into this field of supporting women in anxiety. Like where do you feel like this gap that you're filling? And you've had such incredible background in supporting clients, and you've like incredible results and impact. So where's that
Mm.
kind of come from?
Yeah, so do you know what's interesting? I feel compelled to tell this story slightly differently to how I usually do. And where I'll start is that I grew up in a family where everyone had anxiety, especially the women. And so it was such a programmed in, deep lived experience. Everything was a rush when I was a child. There was not a lot of space to just be and go slow and, have that that picturesque childhood where you're having picnics with your mum and the hours are just kind of going by, like, which, maybe a part of me longed for were those slow moments, those moments of just fun and creativity. And there wasn't a lot of that. And there also wasn't a lot of room for making mistakes and getting things wrong. I come from a family of high achievers too. So a lot of that sense of, I need to keep up to belong in the family. And that was not anyone's fault. It's not to blame anyone. It's simply just the way we all were. And for a while, that worked well for me. So, in high school, for example, it made me a good student and I could thrive in that environment. It's so like a lot of a lot of women I work with kind of, well, we go either way, but we usually like school because it's quite a controlled environment where you know the system and the game to play to win. And then we get into the real world as adults and we're sort of like, oh my goodness, like there's no roadmap anymore. And I think that was definitely one of the most challenging parts. But what I usually don't mention is the fact that I actually grew up in a family of lawyers. And particularly too, my dad was proudly atheist and still is. And it was quite a thing to look down upon or shame anyone who had some kind of a faith
Mm.
in what we cannot see and what we cannot hear and touch and taste. And in my 20s, I found myself dealing with a lot of anxiety, particularly after my parents' divorce. And my dad unexpectedly left the family for a much younger woman. That was devastating. After that, there was a lot of, oh my goodness, like life's gone wrong, waking up every morning feeling that sense. And I found myself really craving a belief system of some sort because it just didn't sit right with me to kind of keep holding on to my family's ideology of there is no belief system. It's its own
I just had
ideology.
goosebumps. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this idea that we just live life and we die and then we're just like bodies in the ground and that's it. It didn't land for me anymore, and I found my heart yearning for a deeper meaning, a deeper connection. And I was almost envious of those who say went to church, not because the dogma never called to me, but it was the sense of going to a space where there's all these people that are connected to something and singing together and praying for each other and caring about each other, like going through hardships together. That's what I was yearning.
There's such a community with church. And I had this conversation with someone the other day who is quite religious. And I
Mm.
said, wow, I love that they're such an incredible knit together.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing. And like, I think the spiritual space has that, but it potentially is more online than in person. Yeah, that's an interesting point that you've just raised.
Well, I think that's why I ended up in, say, Portugal and Bali, because there's quite a spiritual community around Lisbon, and I lived there for a while, and then Bali, obviously. So things like going to kirtans where everyone's singing together, these beautiful mantras, and it's not about singing beautifully. It's actually about the fact that we are connected through our voices, being united. It's the best feeling, and I just love that so much. So that became kind of my experience of a church, or a sort of women's circles and things like that, and bringing women together myself in retreats and various events. So it's been a journey, and I've skipped a chunk, but essentially in the middle there, how did I get through? Well, I went the wrong direction to begin with, and I went into control mode and perfectionist mode, and I thought, well, I can't control the world outside of me because all these unexpected, scary things can happen, and it can twist and turn without warning. And I kind of doubled down on my body and food. And maybe if I just control all of that really well and I take all the perfect supplements and I eat the perfect food, then I'll be at least like really well set up to cope with life's challenges, and my brain will function better and my nervous system. That led me to study naturopathy and nutrition, which laid a really good framework, but I was still missing a key component because I'd be going home from nutrition lectures, Riley, like binge eating expensive vegan chocolate that I got from the health food store, kind of like
Right.
under the guise of health, but really still dealing with the same problems. And it wasn't until I discovered working with the subconscious mind and hypnotherapy that things really shifted for me. And I was able to create a deeper shift for women when I was working with anxiety later on, because you can give someone the perfect plan and say, do these things, take these supplements. But unless we're dealing with the deeper issue of why do I feel so compelled to be perfect all the time? Why have I got this need to be so mean to myself all the time? Why is it so hard to be nice and kind and loving towards myself? That's where we that's the only place we're going to see results, if we start
Mm,
to break those patterns.
yeah.
So a lot of
Amazing.
people come to me sort of stuck in those cycles because they've maybe been in talk therapy for years, and talk therapy can be a beautiful space to feel supported and heard, but ultimately it's not about breaking patterns and breaking cycles, which is it's just so crucial. So
Yeah.
lived it, been through it, now guide women through it, and it's a pleasure to kind of live from this baseline of calm and really have that power back in my life.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I've shared this with you before, and that I believe I activated psyche abilities to help me navigate anxiety and like what I didn't understand at that stage. So, can you give people an idea of what causes anxiety?
Yeah. I would, oh gosh, I mean, I have a whole diagram on this of
Okay,
all the different
okay,
things that
right.
that can cause anxiety, because it's never just one thing.
Mm,
So, for example, I think we're really in our social media, like bite-sized information world, we're very into the idea of, oh my God, it's this one thing. Oh my God, it's just my gut health. And if I just do my gut health, then I'm gonna not have anxiety anymore. And I've seen in the anxiety space, a lot of those like videos will go viral. It's like, I had anxiety until I fixed my gut, and like a million views later, and that might do really well in a attention grabbing way, but the answer is much more nuanced. So yes, gut health can be a crucial part, but it's never the whole story. And with every single woman who sits down in front of me, even people who aren't struggling with anxiety, like we've all got our stuff, we've all got our deeper programs and limiting beliefs that we've picked up along the way. There'll always be something that's under the surface. Maybe we tell ourselves a story, for example, that we're there's something wrong with us, or that we're not good enough, or that I'm not capable, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm different. These are some really big ones, or what I want isn't available to me. So there'll always be some underlying program that then puts us into a fear state. And it's never the truth of who we are. And if we drop into a deeper space of truth and we really listen to that inner intuition, we could feel that it's not true. And I always find it fascinating whenever I find another like limiting belief inside myself. I'm like, ooh, I'm believing that, which means it's not true. So
Yeah.
how can it not be true?
Mm,
So
100%.
yeah, there's this weaving of these subconscious programs, the physical stuff that's definitely contributing and can be making it harder to feel calm. And then there's that piece that's how do we trust life and really developing our intuition and sort of this sense of how can I discern my truth as opposed to what others are telling me.
Definitely. And I'd love to talk on that a little bit because I do use psyche abilities as a way to make decision making and deciding the next steps and pieces as I work with my guides. And what I've noticed in the past is paralysis of analysis. I think that's what it's
Mm.
called. Is that something that's come up with your clients, and how do you what's the best piece to like shift out of that into the calm? Yeah.
Yeah, you're reminding me of a meme I saw recently, which is this woman who's like, I'm just gonna confirm with another card pull. And it's like this girl, she's sitting with a whole lot of cards in front of her, and then it's like, and then it zooms out, and you just see more cards, more cards. There's like 100 cards laid out in front of her that she's
Yeah.
pulled, which
And
is
it,
what we do
that
with
that
anxiety,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And I have actually stopped using tarot cards because I learned to be psychic through tarot, and I've actually very much stopped using it because I get more specifics and deeper guidance from just being within, and
Yeah.
not, it's like you're kind of outsourcing, which you are. So yeah, I'd love to get some insight in that from you around the analysis over paralysis.
Yes. Well, if we are overthinking, even if it's like ruminating and we're questioning, oh, but I'm not sure, like, was that the right answer? Should I really do that? And what does that really mean? We are usually under feeling. So
Mm.
usually what's happening is there's some emotion there under the surface, which is a space that we would almost rather go to, oh, I just need to take this supplement and then I'll feel better. Or, oh, I'll just like see what the card tells me to do, as opposed to drop into our emotions and just let yourself have a cry. I mean, I had to have a big cry yesterday because it was just coming through me and stuff was coming up. And I like to talk of it about it like we need to keep our vessel clear. There's this energy of and this emotional backlog that we're all dealing with through life as we go through stresses and holding a lot, and maybe we're striving for things or putting pressure on ourselves. Maybe we're just wishing it could be easier and that we could be a bit more supported, and it's the constant change and those little moments that we're grieving. I mean, like one of the things that was sort of coming up for me yesterday was just the grief of getting older, but not in like a aging sort of way, more just the change, like watching my family change, watching everyone move into these different life phases. And it's like, oh, we'll never go back to where we were, say, 5, 10 years ago. Like things just, yeah, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
just that,
yeah.
oh, like that's sad. And I just let it come through me. It only took maybe like 5, 10 minutes to just feel it. And then I could get on with my day. But this is such a crucial one that we're often missing because we think we need a big reason to cry. We think we can only cry because someone died or because, you have to have a reason, and it doesn't have to be something specific. It could just be literally, there's stuff coming up. Let's help it release, because that's also how we shed layers of stress, and we even shed cortisol in our tears. We're
Mm,
releasing it from our body.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've journeyed a lot with that in terms of emotions.
Mm.
Um, because I used to be very emotional. Like the first psychic, because I'm so susceptible to energy, and I've had to learn to protect my energy because I was very clairsentient, which means you're channeling other people's energy, and so that's lots of emotions and pieces like that. And like as I've moved into business, it's like, well, business is strategy. You can't be emotional.
Hmm.
Like that's a new belief that I'm trying to code in because it's like marketing is emotional, but business is strategic, and you cannot be emotional in business. Otherwise, you won't build your business. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
Totally.
it's also finding the balance,
Yes.
as a business owner on how to, yeah, like access the calm and like keep track with your body and make sure that's always, your vessel is always,
Mm.
you're holding a strong vessel.
Yeah.
Mm.
See, I equate this with, we are cycling beings as women, especially, and we naturally have that phase, whether it's 3 days or 2 days before your period, where it feels like, oh my God, the world's ending and everything in my life is
Literally.
wrong. And rather than fight that, I mean, we can obviously work to support our hormones, but we're all going to feel more sensitive and fatigued at that time. It's natural, and it's actually helpful because that's our natural, like the tide in the ocean, it ebbs and it flows, and we need to ebb sometimes so that we can flow even more. And I find going with that is a helpful way to keep the vessel clear, because it's like, okay, I just need to have a cry. I'm just going to give myself a bit more spaciousness. I'm going to accomplish only the bare minimum on these days. And then I know that once everything shifts into that next phase of the cycle, I'll be more productive than I normally could be, or than say a man could be,
Mm.
because we've got this like surge of energy and inspiration at that time. So I find there's this like built-in rhythm, almost like it reminds us to slow so that we can also push, and we kind of go through a push and a slow cycle, and weaving that into the business. It is a tricky thing, Riley, but I think when one of the privileges of having your own business is being able to adjust where you spend your time.
Mm.
So we might spend more time at certain times doing things, and less time at other times, and not expecting ourselves to be the same every day.
So true. And like, I always have now just recently have had a womb process, like speaking to my womb intuitively on the days like around my period, which has just been like transformative. And it's always about the body. It's like, eat these foods or go work out or rest, like, or meditate. So it's always to do with that feminine led kind of attributes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I've just had an epiphany because I allowed myself go deeper in that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I love how this took me a while to really surrender into, but seeing how when I do pull myself out of the doing and say, no, today is a day to rest or take a break, I'm always astounded by how much I come back refreshed, or like inspiration comes in because I've given myself some space. So
Mm,
it's definitely something to navigate, but I'm a huge fan of what you were saying about looking at the data, the numbers, as opposed to the emotional waves coming through, because they can, like, that internal system can make you think that, oh my God, I'm not making progress, or things are worse than they are. And then you look at the numbers, and that's so powerful to help guide decision making when it comes to business,
mm.
from a more practical place.
Yeah. And so, like, if someone is navigating anxiety, or maybe they're in that like over analyzing, or like that fear base frequency, like, what is kind of like three things that they could be doing more regularly to sort of implement a more calmer state?
Mm. Honestly, it could be simply that there's a need for a little bit of spaciousness, and that could be as simple as a 10-minute walk. You know, it doesn't have to be that you take a whole day out of your schedule. But typically, if we're in this energy of searching, 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 can't find the solution, getting stressed, don't know what to do, trying to problem solve, I mean, Abraham Hicks talk about this. You can't get there from there. Like you can't find the solution from that energy. So if we go for that walk and we just say, I'm not going to look for it right now, well, if you'd already found the solution, you wouldn't be actively searching for it. And that's often when it then drops in, a new perspective, a new way of looking for it. So it could be moving our body. It could be, like I was saying earlier, that there's some emotion to feel,
Mm.
or perhaps something else that we need to be doing to just take care of ourselves. Or, for example, there might be a part of ourselves that we are resisting, rejecting, denying, disowning, that the anxiety is alerting us to. And so anxiety will kind of like make a noise. It'll get our attention because it's saying, love me, come and see me, look at me. There's a little bit of pain here, or there's a little bit of not feeling quite safe here. And if we just spend a moment to say, hey, so what is that? Oh yeah, like I am dealing with a lot right now. And we soften to that part of ourselves that's feeling overwhelmed, and we just say, yeah, like this is a lot. You're carrying so much. We can start to do what's called reparenting ourselves through that moment. There's a little inner child part that's a bit feeling, oh my goodness, like everything's too much and I'm just a little kid and I can't cope. And we say, yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. And do you know what's so cool is you spend 5 minutes doing that, 10 minutes doing that, and then, oh, I feel relief. And now I feel capable again and I feel whole again because we start to integrate that part back in with the rest of us. And we've decided that actually the weak parts of me are still lovable. The weak parts of me that don't feel so empowered and like the boss businesswoman, she's actually sweet and lovable and wonderful too because there's all aspects of me inside me. And if we can try and find our way to love all of the parts we think aren't lovable, that's where we're going to develop a much deeper confidence, a much deeper sense of safety in the world too. So we're not so
Yeah.
afraid of being judged because we're not judging ourselves so hard.
Yeah. And you mentioned a lot about that high achiever. Um, yeah, I'd love to hear more about that from you around.
Like growing up in my family, we're around high
Yeah, and
achievers.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, I think many people resonate to that
Mm.
need to achieve all these things and this comparison to others. And it's like I always say, like, we're actually looking for inner peace. But then there's this constant drive to like always be improving and being at that height of your career or your business. And there's always this expectation maybe we have of ourselves or of our parents have of us, of whatever it could be.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because we ultimately want to find like what is our true calling and our true purpose, our true mission on the planet. And sometimes we'll get confused as to what that is because we get tied up in approval seeking and basically what would have made our parents like us more, love us more, be happy with us. And there's a bit of a process with that of unlearning all the pressures, all the things that you were told, and then coming back to what actually feels good to me. I can't tell you how many women come to me, Riley, and they don't even know what their truth is. Like they don't know the yes or the no. They don't know that this feels right for me. And so sometimes we need to just start there with those little moments of, let's say you have a regular running routine and you run every morning and really dropping in with yourself because it's just something you've done for years. But do you actually like running? Does this actually feel good for you? Is it still in alignment for you? And what I've found through my life is I go through phases. I'll have seasons where certain things feel really in alignment and seasons where other things do as well. And it's like I went through a big phase. I think you and I have talked about this, where my edge, my growth edge was how slow and calm and chill can I go? I moved to Byron Bay and I lived that life and I was like napping on my outdoor couch on the deck looking over the rainforest and I was just so chill. And
Mm.
that was in alignment for that time of my life until it wasn't anymore. And I realized, oh, I'm actually now moving towards a deeper purpose. And I still have a mission I want to pursue and I want to help more women, which means I'm going to have to get up off the couch and learn a few things to help get my message out there further. And that might require a bit more learning, a bit more education, a bit more taking action. And that's, currently sort of become more of my aligned space at the moment. But really dropping in and feeling for, is this coming from trying to prove something to other people? Or is it coming from, I really deeply in my heart feel called towards this. And I
Mm,
was so intentional about not trying to prove something to anyone that I waited until the vision of what I'm creating now dropped in. And like totally without me trying. It was just in a breathwork session that I feel like I had to allow it in actually. It was almost like I was so determined not to be fake or inauthentic in what I'm living my life for that I was really like cautious about it. And I was very, well, let's say discerning. I was very
yes.
discerning.
Mm,
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, I feel like this is the like being in flow, like flow with life. And you spoke earlier about this cycle of like the rhythm of life and the cycles of life. And it is really about being in flow and like trusting that the pieces will drop in at the best timing.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, that's very much overlays with some of the pieces I teach in, tapping into your higher self, your intuition, and just like being in the flow, right? And I think what we've touched on around like relaxing, going for a walk will always kind of drop you back in, like the movement of that, whether it's the breath. Like the breath is so powerful.
Hmm. Yeah, what I love about our breath is that it's always with us. You don't have to pop a pill. You don't have to go somewhere special. Like you can use it wherever you are. If you've
Mm,
got 30 seconds, you can do a quick physiological sigh, which is a deep belly breath in, second sip of air to fully inflate the lungs, and then a long exhale. That's going to take you maybe 10 seconds, but do three of them at least, and you'll really feel it drop you down into a more calm state. But then if we've got longer and we've got a bit more stuff coming up, which um, it's sometimes we'll go through those cycles too, then doing more of like a 20-minute, say, breath work could be really, really powerful where we're more breathing in a rhythm with music and some guidance. So that's where we're going to alter our state and be able to shed deeper layers. Next minute you're crying, you don't know what you're crying about, or your body's just shaking head to toe, you don't know why. It doesn't matter. We don't need logic, we don't need reason. It's just releasing things that you've been holding on to that you don't even know about.
yeah, yeah, amazing. And so if anyone's sort of like navigating anxiety, or maybe like there's a day where they've got like, there's just a bit of panic comes up, like what sort of like a short practice that they can do to just regulate themselves again?
The key that, and this is just like a pivotal cornerstone of becoming a calm woman and no longer
Mm.
struggling with this, is to learn to shift that internal relationship. So starting to change from what are you usually saying to yourself when you feel panic or anxiety? Oh no, oh no, this shouldn't be here. This is bad. Oh, now my day is going to be ruined. Oh, I'm just like, I'm so powerless right now. I can't do anything about this. I'm stuck. Oh, this is the worst. Maybe we'll be saying something like that. So just notice that that's how you usually react and start to practice with potentially shifting that into more of a, can I close my eyes, notice the sensation that's here in my body from more of a zoomed out perspective and just watch it with fascination, with interest for a few seconds. You don't have to do this for very long, but just noticing, ah, there is anxiety here in the body. Not my anxiety, not I'm anxious. It's just there is anxiety here moving through, just like you might look out your window and notice a storm passing through the sky. Okay, so some turbulent weather. Interesting. Fascinating. Just going to watch it, going to hold my focus there. I'm not going to push it away. And maybe I'll even welcome it in a little. Maybe I'm even going to move towards it and say, come closer, anxiety. You're allowed to be here. That's okay. And there's no problem that you're here. And the less we can make it a problem, the sooner it unfurls and releases from our body. It's the most amazing thing when you first try it. Or maybe it'll take two or three attempts to really sort of drop into it. But you start to realize just how powerful you are. That just with your conscious awareness, you can notice this discomfort and you can help it to release, which is a crucial that really builds onto psychic development skills, right? Because there's a lot of just like, okay, I'm just noticing what's here. And that part is emotion. That's not my intuition speaking. That's an emotion that's here. And we can start to, yeah, help that release so you can drop into the deeper truth beneath it.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Because a lot of people do confuse their intuition with like trauma or a fear or a subconscious belief or whatever it is. And I think that's where I know that's where people go wrong.
Yes.
And that's why I feel when you actually understand the like extra sensory, your sixth sense, and the pieces of how to decode that, it just becomes so much easier to listen to your intuition because your intuition is so
Mm.
soft I'm not surprised why a lot of people do miss it or misinterpret it.
Yeah. And when I was single only a few years ago, I was on a big journey of that because I was so determined to overcome those unhealthy patterns in relationships, especially attracting in partners who are more on the narcissistic side or partners who weren't really emotionally available. And I would feel on a first date, what's the energy like here? And often my nervous system would communicate in tandem with my intuition. And I could really feel it. Like I literally had a first date once in Bali where I was getting these jabbing stomach pains, which I never normally get. And it was just so clear that like I wanted to get away from this guy, and it ended up being the right decision, not in alignment, not where I wanted to be, body not feeling safe, and intuition saying yeah. But then to contrast that, when I met my current partner on our first date, the thing before all the nerves and everything could come in, I just felt into his energy. I felt for his heart before I'd sat down, just looking at him. As I walked in the first few seconds, I was like, what is this initial impression? And I felt this is a good man. He has a good heart. And then I felt like nervous after because I was like talking to him and just, oh my God, he's ticking all the boxes. No. And I remember my mind saying, you can't have this. He's perfect. And then I was like, yes, I can. Um, but then Riley, like a few weeks into dating him, I had a trauma response come up because something occurred that triggered me into, oh no, he's a narcissist too. And for like a whole weekend, I wasn't even with him. I just was convinced on my own in my own head that he was a narcissist too. And I freaked myself out. And that's the fear that had come
Yeah.
through. And
Mm.
once I came back down, I processed that and I did a lot of inner child work there. I was able to see the situation clearly again, and here we are, and we're in a beautiful, lovely relationship. So it's
Oh,
a
it's
nice story
beautiful.
to demonstrate the difference, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting on relationships. One thing that I've always guided, and I believe that I've now coded like my higher self through an NLP process. But when I was young, like early 20s, I would always get dreams about relationships. So I used to get dreams about when I was with this guy and just about the wedding always going wrong. And I had the same dream for about 6 months straight. And then I was like, what's this dream? Like, I didn't know anything about intuition or dreams. I was like, what's going on? And I ended up leaving that relationship because it really wasn't good for me. And ever since then, I've always received, not every single time, but the bigger relationships from dreams. So following that, I had a dream about a guy who I was about to meet. The next day, I met him after the dream, and it looked exactly like the guy in the dream, which was crazy. And then we had a lovely experience together. And my last relationship last year, I had a dream that um, my partner at the time had died. And
Mm,
then 2 weeks later, we broke up. So it was like symbolic for he's going to be living your life, Riley, like get prepared.
wow.
And that's what happened. He's still alive, so
Yeah,
good.
but
Um,
symbolically,
yeah, and
symbolic
I
death.
never said anything to him about the dream, but now looking back, I'm like, it's definitely something I've coded in
Yeah.
to yeah, that my higher self is now accessing that, and probably my subconscious as well.
Yeah, that's really, really amazing how potent it can be, isn't it?
Mm.
You're reminding me of this isn't I mean, you could call this intuition, but I have not used the Pattern app. Do you know that app that's got like it's got astrology and numerology woven into it?
No.
It's called the Pattern. It's super popular, but I used it for a time back in 2019 in in my previous relationship, and it totally predicted the end of the relationship and told me I was going to be going through a big period of being single and learning to be alone. And I was just like, absolutely not. I deleted the app, got rid of it, and then it was true. And I still don't want to get back on it years later. So I don't know if that's necessarily intuition, but it's yeah, it's fascinating how there are things that we can know. Maybe I did know. Maybe it hit me deeper because I think we can hear sometimes, like sometimes you'll pull a card or something, or you will get a download and you'll be like, I don't know if that is the guidance for me. But maybe
Mm.
because I did know and I so didn't want it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many times where it's like, I think that is one thing I find that my clients struggle with when they're like, I can't channel with for myself, but I
Mm,
can channel for other people.
mm,
And, there's been like majority 90 to 99% of the time now I can channel for myself because I've deeply so pulled apart all the pieces.
mm,
But the reason why people struggle to channel for themselves is because the bias, they want something to happen. So they'll block what is actually, so they have a filtering.
mm,
And so, yeah, it's important to like actually do a filtering process. Is this, is this a trauma response? And is this a whatever it is? Or
mm,
is this a channel? And so that's the one of the big pieces of just understanding what's coming through and not being biased to what you desire, but just
mm.
receiving and like just letting total control release and just allowing whatever comes through to be exactly what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Mm.
sometimes what we need is different to what we want, which is hard as a human because our ego wants to like, you know, get in the
Totally.
way.
Oh, and like the end of that relationship was absolutely what I needed, but I did not want it. It probably took me like 2 years to be okay with the fact that all of that happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but this is the path of life and how it takes us down a road. And I think what's so beautiful about being able to tap into our intuition is that when we're in the midst of something so unwanted, we, by the mind, by the human part of us, we can also tap into a deeper knowing of it's happening for you. It may
Mm,
just be that it's going to take 2 or 3 years for you to actually appreciate that it's needed to happen for you.
yes, that's so true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of big shifts this year that have really pulled me into that. And I've been so grateful to be able to experience what I'm experiencing as a human and at the same time have one foot in this other awareness, this other knowing of like, no, all of the crumbling, all of the changes, all of the dismantling is happening for you. And you'll be so glad this happened. Just give it another year, give it a few months to unfold. But it's that it's that crumbling so that newness can unfold or new growth can unfold.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so true. And following the rhythm of life is just keep going with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Georgie, thank you so much for sharing and coming onto the podcast. It's been so nice to chat with you. And I know everyone will take like heaps of value from this. And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
The best place to hang out is over on Instagram at Georgie Collinson, and that's where I'm most active, or you can check out my website, georgiecollinson.com.
Amazing. And I'll link all of that below so you guys can get direct and jump into her DMs, maybe.
Yes, come say hello. Let me know how you're doing.
That's it.